Listen, I know there's like all these tips that people say all the time, go shop in the men's section, blah, blah, blah. You guys don't want to hear that. You want the real deal thrifting tips that no one else wants to tell you, and that's why I'm here to deliver. So my very first tip is you're going to take the tags with the lower prices and put them on the... I'm just kidding, guys. Please don't do that. That was a joke, okay? Anyway, I'm gonna give you my actual real thrifting tips so you can feel good about the deals you're getting and get all of those items that you really want. So let's just get into it. Now, one of the things people say a lot is to go early because you're gonna get the best items if you go earlier. This is half true in my opinion. Yes, when you go right when the store opens, there's gonna be a lot of options. However, I think that there are also other times of the day where they're restocking inventory and adding new pieces to the floor. And it's important to kind of go at different times to figure out your local thrift stores and what times they do that sort of thing. So for example, at one of my local thrift stores, a Value Village, they end up putting new pieces out when we're there at 8 o'clock at night. So you never know, maybe they're preparing for the next day at that time. But a great way to know is if you feel comfortable and you're feeling friendly that day, there is no reason why you couldn't ask staff what days and times they set out new items. So that is the first tip. My next tip, have a clear idea of what you want. Before visiting the thrift store, make sure you have a clear idea of the items that you're looking for. Having a specific goal in mind will help make your shopping experience so much better, and I'll explain why. So first, I start with creating a Pinterest board, and that gives me the inspiration of what I'll be looking for, and then I break down from those pieces on Pinterest that I've saved, and I decide, okay, what am I liking from this? What do I actually want to get, and what's gonna make the outfit that I'm visualizing from this? From there, I'll take those pieces and write them down in my notes, and that way I have my notes in my notes app on my phone with me when I go, as well as the Pinterest board to look at if I need reference to what those pieces are. This is really just going to help you avoid getting overwhelmed by the huge amount of options available in the thrift store. I mean, you might be trying to look for clothes, but you don't have a specific plan. You end up in the homeware section. It can be really great to go in with a specific plan. Keeping in mind by going with a plan, go by section. So if, for example, I, from my Pinterest board and from my notes, only need a blazer and a pair of jeans this day, just go check the men's and women's blazers and the men's and women's jeans section. You don't need to go overwhelm yourself with all these different areas of what if I find a perfect hidden gem somewhere. You're just gonna burn yourself out, and you're not gonna end up finding the two staple pieces that you went there in the first place looking for. So honestly, just go start off with those two pieces in mind that you want, go to those sections and look at every single item. That's the important part, is you just got to take your time with sections, and maybe you go a week later and you go for different sections, and then you really spend your time in those sections. I'm not saying you can't wander and pull things off here and there when you see things that really jump out to you, but most of thrifting is going to be just taking your time and going through every single piece. So that's why breaking it down by section for yourself per visit is really helpful, and it'll stop you from getting overwhelmed, because if you're anything like me, I get very overwhelmed, okay? I even get overwhelmed in the grocery store. So we gotta break it down for ourselves. We gotta make it easy. Next tip is try exploring different thrift stores. I definitely get in the rut sometimes of just going to a particular Value Village, and you're gonna start to know the kind of stuff you're gonna find there, and it becomes predictable, and it kind of takes the joy out of thrifting, because the whole fun of thrifting is being spontaneous and finding things spontaneously, right? So it's important to go try looking at different thrift stores, because you might find ones with better prices than the big chain ones, better inventory sometimes. Think about it. There's one near me that is a charity shop for a hospital. So a lot of people may be more willing to donate their nicer things there because it's going to a really good cause. Whereas with something like Goodwill, right? I think Goodwill and Value Village, they're for profits. So you might find better stuff at those smaller ones. And often the not-for-profit thrift stores have better prices. They're a little bit more reasonable and they're not overpicked. So they can be smaller, yes, but that also makes it less overwhelming. You don't have to go through so many sections. I kind of think there's two categories of thrift store. There's your big chain for-profit ones, and then there's those smaller charity shops. And it's important to have a balance of both of those things. My next tip is to check for discounts and sales days. So this can be as simple as asking the employees what their days are, or checking the website for what days they might have sales, or what days maybe they're a senior day and you can get discounts if you're a senior. If you're not a senior, bring your grandma with you and then get them to buy the stuff and then pay them back so you get the discount. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's shady, but whatever. Only do that at a for-profit. But yeah, there's lots of different deals going on, and it's important to ask around and find out. And sometimes signing up for a membership at those thrift stores, they'll end up sending you emails when those sales days are happening. So that's really great too if you're really passionate about thrifting and you go really often. That's going to be really helpful. Another thing is a lot of these thrift stores will have coupons for you if you donate. For example, Value Village and Savers will give you a 20% off discount coupon when you donate. So make sure you go ahead and declutter a little bit and bring a few pieces to donate. You'll get a 20% off discount and it'll be worth it. Another tip I have for you, once you've found these items that you really like, put those items in a cart. Make sure you grab a cart. This is the best way to do it. And if you like something and you think it's good enough to hold on to for a little bit, put that in your cart. And at the end of your trip, you're gonna want to inspect every single item very carefully. So you're gonna go ahead and look at every single piece. So you wanna check for any damage, stains, missing parts, holes, anything like that, and determine for yourself whether or not that's something you can, one, live with, or two, repair yourself. So for example, if I found a pair of jeans and the belt loop was detached, that's something that wouldn't bother me and I would be able to fix that. So I would take that item. However, if there was a hole somewhere on like a t-shirt, that might not be something that I can necessarily fix. So that's probably not an item that I would pick up. I gotta sneeze. So just keep in mind your skill level and your DIY-iness. I knew I had to sneeze, it took so long. Yeah, be aware of your skill level for repairs and try to keep that in mind as well with an item, especially if it's really perfect and you really want it, but there's just a small flaw with it. But absolutely check for those flaws before you get it, because you don't want to end up with something when you take it home you realize there's something wrong with it that prevents you from wanting to wear it. Speaking of not being able to wear things, be mindful about the sizing of items. So when you're looking for things, sometimes I go for things that are a little bit oversized because I know that they'll fit, or I look at the sizing, but sizing can't always be super accurate. So what some people do, and I'm not necessarily comfortable with this, so if you're not comfortable, by no means, you don't have to do this. I have another way to get around this for you. But if you're comfortable trying things on in the store, because a lot of these thrift stores don't actually have change rooms anymore. But if you're comfortable with trying things on in the middle of the store, I know some people are, just wear some really tight fitted clothing and then you can try stuff on top of your clothes. It's great. Wear a pair of leggings and a tight tank top and then you can try a bunch of stuff on, which is really helpful because that's one of the biggest things with thrifting is sizing can be really difficult. If you're really not comfortable with this, I totally get that. For certain items, you can get away with bringing a measuring tape. So just bring a fabric or like bendable measuring tape and you can measure the waistbands of jeans and measure your waist, and that'll give you a really accurate sizing of if those jeans will fit. And sometimes you can do this with dresses as well, around the waist, around the top, and just see if that piece will fit you. If you're really hooped and you forgot to bring a measuring tape, one trick that I've learned is specifically for pants or for jeans, if there's belt loops on the side or the side seams, you want to hold your fingers at those side seams and hold them up to your body, and that has to reach to the sides of your body. So if that reaches, then those are going to fit you. If it's a little bit short of that, then those might not fit you. So that's something that I do. Like often I don't bring a measuring tape, so that I'll just hold them up to me like that, see if they hit the sides. And that's a really easy way of determining if a piece might fit you. Keep in mind, sometimes even with all that being said and done, things don't fit that we pick up at the thrift store, or they don't fit the way we want them to. And that's when you have to be okay with cutting your losses sometimes. However, you don't necessarily have to take a loss on that. If you end up signing up for something like Depop, you can just resell that item that just didn't fit you. And that's totally fine. That's just the name of the game. So don't feel bad. It happens to the best of us. My next tip is have an open mind. Now, this might sound silly and you might be going in for really specific things like I told you to do before, but have an open mind about certain items. You might find things that are really eclectic or really unique because that's just the nature of thrifting. And I'd say let yourself be open to these things, because if you allow yourself to be open to that, you might be able to find like really interesting, unique pieces that are wonderful. And I honestly think that's such a great benefit to thrifting versus shopping fast fashion. You're never going to get an interesting, unique piece shopping fast fashion, but you will find really cool pieces when you're thrifting. An example of this is when I was thrifting, I found a Jack Daniel's sponsored PBR, like rodeo top, but it was just black, you know, collared and nice thick fabric, and it was super cool and it looks like very cowboy and really awesome. And I was gonna get it for myself, but my boyfriend ended up really liking it and he picked it up and he wears it all the time, and it's such an interesting, unique, really cool piece that you couldn't get unless you were either in the PBR or in a thrift store. So that's why thrifting is great, right? So you want to embrace that. For my next tip, go into the thrift store with a DIY opportunity in mind. So this applies from my tip from before of preparing a list, preparing a Pinterest board. And there's often pieces that I find on Pinterest that are very unique that you wouldn't be able to buy, or it would be very rare to thrift necessarily. However, you would be able to DIY those pieces. So this top, for example, that Bella Hadid wore with this strap in the back, but it's kind of like a button-down top. I ended up thrift flipping this for my sister because she really wanted that Bella Hadid top. We knew we couldn't find that at the thrift store. However, we knew we could find a plain button-down top, and we knew that we could transform it. Look at things with the mind of being able to transform, and you'll have a lot more options that way. Especially like if it's summertime, maybe you want to tie-dye some shirts. Go to the thrift store and pick up some shirts to tie-dye. Maybe you want to bleach dye some shirts. I have a video on that on my channel already. Go pick up some black clothing and bleach dye those. Maybe you want to paint on jeans or a jean jacket. It's a little bit lower stakes if you're picking it up for a lower price at the thrift store than picking something out of your closet that you love wearing. And then you can try out this really fun technique that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So that's where these DIY opportunities can be really great, and I like to keep those in mind. Pay attention to seasonal items. So for example, it's summertime right now. There's gonna be a lot of really nice winter jackets, and I'll show you a few examples from when I went thrifting the other day. They're 100% wool or wool and cashmere, or have like real fur on them, or are just really beautiful styles, and they are at the thrift store right now because people are trying to downsize their wardrobes for winter to get ready for summer. The thrift store isn't gonna price them too high, because it's summer right now, no one's gonna really be buying them right now. So that's when you should be buying them, because you'll get a better deal. And then same thing for like wintertime. Maybe you're going for bathing suits or tank tops or more strappy shoes. Those are going to be great to find in the wintertime. So those are all my tips for now. I hope that that was helpful. Remember, thrifting's supposed to be fun. And yeah, I hope I was able to give you guys some tips that not everyone's giving, because I feel like there's a bunch that you hear over and over, but I hope these can be a little bit different, a little bit unique, and will be able to help you guys in your thrifting journey, because maybe you're a beginner, maybe you're experienced, but you just want to hear what I have to say, or maybe you're just a fan of this channel and you want to support me and watch all my videos. And speaking of being a fan of this channel, if you liked this video and you want to see more from me, it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe. I would love that so much. And you could just be another friend here, because we have lots of friends here and it's a good time and we have fun. And make sure you comment. Like, I really want to interact with you guys. I love getting comments. I often get creepy comments, and I often get people hating on my cat. So if you want to comment something that is nice to outweigh some of those, that would be super dope and I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon.